I'm going to share a dream that I had just a few nights ago on the 26th of September this year, 2016. Um, this dream, I think, is important. I think that there's a personal interpretation and meaning in it for me, as well as one that's important for others. Um, I'm just going to read because it does make it easier and faster. Um, I dreamed that my mother and I lived together. My mother died on a sofa. For some reason, I stayed in the home with her but dead body for a certain amount of time. I made no phone calls. I was very sad, and I recall taking notice more than once to see for certain that she was not breathing and that she was indeed deceased. Um, my brother called me, and I told him about what happened to Mom, and I was upset, but I was a lot more upset than he was. After this happened, um, I went and moved in with my sister and my brother. We were all together, sort of bonded by the loss of our mother, but I had a greater amount of grief than they did. I'm going to turn the page, sorry about that. My siblings were just less affected, and they didn't seek to comfort me or coddle me or give me any kind of pity even. Um, and I will say this: it were as though, or it was as though, the three of us siblings, we were young again, like we were teenagers or perhaps in our 20s. I wasn't married yet. Been married for almost 22 years. So that was a detail. Um, I was hit with fear because I realized I would no longer be getting a government check in the mail, and because my mom had died, this would have ended for me. This is just what was in the dream, um, and so I knew that I was going to have to work. So we talked about getting a job, me and my siblings, about how I needed to get a job. And we set out on this trip. It was a drive. I was not in Tennessee, which is my home. Uh, though I believe I was told it was Colorado, I came to notice very unusual terrain for Colorado. I recall seeing no mountains. Uh, there were a lot of curves in the road, and then we came upon a lake, and I began to notice lots of little white crystals on the ground at different places. Um, and there was a great deal of these little white crystals that look like either sand or sugar or even or salt. And so me and my sister were discussing it, and she thought it was sugar, and I said, I think it's salt. And I remember I reached my arm out, and even though we were driving, and I stuck my arm out to get a taste. And as I tasted it, it was salt. And there was a lot more of this salt right around the lake. And so here's the meaning to the dream. Um, my mother in the dream represents America, the United States of America. Um, and she dies in the dream, and so this would sort of signify um, the collapse or perhaps the fall of America, which God has been talking to me about for a couple of decades. Um, me in the dream, now I've learned in dreams that sometimes you yourself represent something specific, a specific group of people or something. And then there are a lot of, well, I have the gift of interpretation of dreams, and this is what I have found is that people, and when I write about my dreams, often represent specific groups of people or a nation or different nations. For me, I witnessed the death of my mother, so that in the interpretation, I witnessed the death of the nation, unlike others, with greater grief, because I have been a watchman and an intercessor. Um, Now, my siblings represent two different groups of people: uh, non-believers and Christians who haven't been watchmen or intercessors and really don't fully understand what's going on. And I stated, I know in the dream that the three of us were bonded by our mother's death, and I don't understand the full meaning of why, there's this mixture of unbelievers, believers, and together, and watchmen. But I do think it means that people are basically going to get closer, and people that have disagreed on many issues are going to kind of lay that down when things get really rough. Um, the us being young again, I think that it's representative of, just like children who are without a mother and just feeling lost. And I think the younger we are, the more we would feel affected profoundly by the death of our mother. I mean, it's going to be difficult no matter what. But to be so young, perhaps late teenagers, early 20s, this forced us to bind. And I'll say this: this is just coming to me right now. Um, you know, there's also a meaning in this, because America is a young nation. I mean, people don't realize that, you know, 1776 to 2016 is not a very long history for a nation. Um, so I think that is part of the revelation too there, the meaning there. Um, so basically, what that means is us being young again. It's just us being without our nation and just being feeling like, what do we do? You know, what's going to happen? As far as source of income and my job and all this, I think this represents the economy, because I will no longer be receiving assistance from a government that has fallen, because it can no longer provide that. But I am willing to look for work. And I think that that's a message to believers that, that you need to have a good work ethic. Um, God is going to provide for his people, but he really honors people who have a lifestyle of honor. And in that lifestyle of honor would be a good work ethic and recognizing the need um, to, to, to take care of yourself. There's a little more than that to it, though. I think I think that this is also a message to encourage people to pray for preparation, because some things are not going to be available to us. Um, so knowing that if you do get government assistance, if you get government, if you're involved in government programs, if you have a government job, this kind of thing. I think God will speak to each of us differently depending on our situation, our work situation, and everything. I'm a stay-at-home mom who teaches my children, so I have a chalkboard behind me. But I think that it's a word of, you need to pray specifically what God wants you to do to prepare for the possibility of no longer having an income. For some, this could be, I mean, I believe that the answer is really going to differ based on family, location, and individual. So I think it's important that we individually pray. What does God want me to do? what does God want my family to do, um, and begin to really prepare in every way that God is leading you to move into whatever that is you need to be ready for. Um, now, let's see. I will say something about the lake. In most of my dreams, still water represents trial and the need to be enduring and to endure. So I think this is what is obviously, you're going to have to try to. It's going to be a trial. It's going to be a lot to endure when this happens. And I think the most beautiful part of this dream is the salt, because Jesus says we're the salt of the world. If the salt has lost its savor, then it's no good, and you should just cast it out. Just cast it away. It's just no good. And salt has some amazing medicinal helps, traits to him also, which a lot of people don't know that it's better than just flavoring food. But what's beautiful about this is that this is a message to me that when everything happens in America, and it's going to be really, really bad, but the Christians are still going to be there. In other words, I don't, at this time, at this point in the fall of America, because I think there's just different things that are going to happen at different times. Whatever this point is, the salt is still going to be on the earth. And I think that's a sad message for some who are just weary of being here, and I understand that. I do. I get that way too. But in the end, for me, it's a positive message because I can still see that there's time that I can reach out and share Christ with others. I can uh, try to reach as many as I can because God desires that no man should perish. It really is His desire to save as many as He can. So I think that is actually a good message. And I will give one last warning. Now, in actual life, my sister is a wonderful, spirit filled Christian, just amazing. But in this dream, she represents a Christian that is not very discerning, and that because when we were younger, she had not had she didn't have a relationship with Christ. Um, but I think it's interesting that people who watch this and think, oh, this is just a bunch of, ooh, scary, oh, whoa, 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 and people that are just into maybe drama and just, all this like scary stuff. Um, and they don't really pay attention to it, and they're not really interested in it, and they just shut it off. Um, this is a message to you that you need to be discerning and that you need to start praying about it more. That wasn't sugar, like my sister said in my dream. It was salt. And I just, I feel like that this is something that's very important because that some of the things that we're going to be going through, small things can really make a difference. What you understand, what you know, what you're hearing from God. How well do you hear God's voice? How close are you to the shepherd? These are questions you really have to ask yourself. Sure, life, we have jobs, we have responsibilities. But you know what? This is pretty important. Getting ready for what's going to happen. And I don't think it takes a prophet or a dream for this to be understood. So really pray about it. And, it doesn't take a prophet to know that America's in trouble. So pray about it and begin to get closer to God so that you will know what to do and what to say. And God bless you.